There's a moment that comes for everyone, a moment when the alarm sounds in the darkness and your entire body revolts against the idea of movement. Your muscles ache from yesterday's effort. Your mind constructs elaborate justifications for just a few more minutes of rest. Your emotions whisper seductive lies about how you've earned a break, how one day won't matter, how you can always start fresh tomorrow. This moment, this precise intersection of intention and resistance, is where your entire future gets decided. Not in some dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime crossroads, but in this ordinary, repeated, seemingly insignificant choice that happens every single morning. The truth that nobody wants to hear is this: you are exactly where your feelings have placed you. Every goal you haven't reached, every dream that remains distant, every version of yourself that you haven't become, they all exist in that space because you've consistently chosen what feels good over what gets results. You've chosen the comfort of the familiar over the discomfort of growth. You've chosen the path of least resistance when the path of most resistance was the only one that led where you claimed you wanted to go. And the devastating part isn't that you made these choices. It's that you made them unconsciously, believing that your feelings were facts, that your emotional state was something that happened to you rather than something you could control. Think about the mathematics of mediocrity for a moment. Every day you say no to your dreams, you're not just maintaining your current position, you're actively moving backward. While you're waiting to feel ready, someone else with less talent, fewer resources, and more determination is moving forward. That single day you decided to stay in bed because you didn't feel like showing up might have cost you 6 months of progress. That week you spent in emotional paralysis might have pushed your breakthrough back an entire year. Time doesn't pause for your feelings. The market doesn't wait until you're motivated. Opportunities don't circle back because you weren't emotionally prepared the first time they appeared. Reality operates on its own schedule, indifferent to your internal weather, and every moment you spend waiting for the perfect emotional state is a moment that your competition is using to get further ahead. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't superhuman. They've simply cracked the code that feelings are optional in the execution equation. They understand something that average performers never grasp. Motivation is not a prerequisite for action. Action is the prerequisite for motivation. You don't need to feel like doing it. You just need to do it, and the feelings will follow. Champions don't wake up feeling like champions. They wake up tired, doubtful, anxious, and overwhelmed, just like everyone else. The difference is that they've made a decision that transcends their emotional state. They've made their goals sacred. When something is sacred, you don't consult your feelings about whether to honor it. You don't negotiate with your emotions about whether today is the day you'll show up. Sacred means non-negotiable. Sacred means that when your alarm goes off at 3 in the morning and every fiber of your being wants to hit snooze, you get up anyway because you've decided that this goal is bigger than your momentary discomfort. You've decided that your family's future is more important than your current feelings. You've decided that the person you're becoming is worth more than the temporary pleasure of staying comfortable. This is what separates people who talk about their dreams from people who live them. The willingness to operate from principle rather than preference, from commitment rather than convenience, from dedication rather than desire. Consider what real consistency actually means, because most people have completely misunderstood the concept. Consistency isn't showing up when you feel inspired. That's easy. Anyone can work hard when motivation is high, when the goal feels exciting, when success. Consistency is showing up on the days when everything in you wants to quit. It's honoring your commitment when the commitment has become boring, when the initial excitement has worn off, when the goal seems impossibly far away. It's understanding that the days you don't want to do it are actually the most important days. Those are the days that separate you from everyone else who had the same dream but lacked the fortitude to push through the resistance. Everyone starts the race. Most people maintain pace when it's easy. Only a few keep moving when every step feels like torture. Those few are the ones who end up on the podium. The rest become cautionary tales about wasted potential. And here's what makes this even more challenging. Commitment is not the enthusiastic yes you declare when you first set a goal. That's just excitement masquerading as commitment. Real commitment is staying true to what you said you'd do long after the mood that inspired you to say it has completely evaporated. It's waking up on a Tuesday morning 3 months into your journey, feeling absolutely nothing about the goal that once set your soul on fire, and doing the work anyway. It's showing up when showing up feels pointless, when you can't see any progress, when every indicator suggests that you're wasting your time. It's maintaining your discipline during the long, dark middle section of every worthwhile pursuit when the beginning's excitement is gone and the end's reward is nowhere in sight. This is where most dreams go to die, not in some catastrophic failure, but in the quiet erosion of commitment during the unglamorous middle chapters when nobody's watching and nothing feels like it's working. The concept of being process-driven rather than feeling-driven represents a fundamental shift in how you approach your entire life. Feeling-driven people are at the mercy of their emotional state. They work when they feel inspired. They rest when they feel tired. They pursue their goals when circumstances feel favorable. They abandon their goals when obstacles appear or when the initial enthusiasm fades. Their entire life trajectory is determined by the unpredictable winds of emotion, which means they're essentially passengers in their own lives, going wherever their feelings take them rather than steering toward a deliberately chosen destination. Process-driven people operate on a completely different system. They understand that feelings are just weather. They come and go. They rise and fall, but they have no bearing on what needs to be done. A process-driven person gets up at 3 in the morning whether they want to or not, whether they feel like it or not, whether they're motivated or not, because that's what the process requires. They execute their plan with robotic consistency because they understand that the process, repeated over time, produces results regardless of how they felt on any given day. They've essentially removed the variable of emotion from the success equation. They've looked at what works, the proven path from where they are to where they want to be, and they've committed to following that path with mechanical precision, understanding that their job is not to feel good about the path, but simply to stay on it. This is why some people grind their way through every obstacle and emerge victorious, while others, with equal or greater talent, never reach their potential. The difference isn't ability or opportunity or luck, it's the willingness to divorce execution from emotion, to make discipline a practice rather than a feeling, to understand that champions are not crowned based on who wanted it most, or who felt most motivated, but on who kept showing up regardless of how they felt. Speed and urgency form another critical component that separates elite performers from everyone else. Most people fundamentally misunderstand time. They act as if they have unlimited quantities of it, as if they can always start tomorrow, as if their future selves will somehow be more disciplined, more motivated, more capable than their current selves. This is a delusion that costs millions of people their dreams. The reality is that you are racing against 2 clocks simultaneously. The first clock is your own mortality. You have a finite number of days on this planet, and every day that passes without meaningful progress is a day you'll never get back. The second clock is competitive. While you're thinking about starting, someone else is already 10 miles down the road. While you're preparing to prepare, someone else is executing. While you're waiting for perfect conditions, someone else is making imperfect progress that compounds daily into extraordinary results. The winners in life are not always the most talented or the best resourced. They're often simply the ones who moved faster, who understood that execution beats planning, who grasped that done beats perfect, who recognized that the time will never be exactly right. So the only right time is right now. Consider this. If you and a competitor have equal skill and equal resources, but they work with urgency, and you work at a comfortable pace, they will lap you. They'll achieve in months what takes you years. They'll capture opportunities while you're still considering whether to pursue them. Speed is a competitive advantage that anyone can develop regardless of their starting point. You don't need permission to move faster. You don't need additional resources to pick up the pace. You just need to make a decision that your goals matter, enough to warrant a sense of urgency, that your dreams deserve more than the leftover scraps of time you give them after you've done everything else, that the life you say you want requires you to act like someone who actually wants it, rather than someone who merely wishes for it while maintaining a comfortable pace that guarantees you'll never actually reach it. The principle of ownership represents perhaps the most powerful shift in mindset that anyone can make. Most people go through life pointing fingers when things go wrong, They have an impressive catalog of external factors to blame. The economy, their boss, their circumstances, their past, their lack of resources, other people's actions. This finger-pointing feels good in the moment because it absolves them of responsibility. But it comes with a devastating cost. Every time you point outward, you give away your power. Every time you say, "They did this to me," you're essentially declaring yourself a victim, a passive recipient of circumstances beyond your control, someone who needs to wait for external conditions to change before they can succeed. This is a prison sentence you're imposing on yourself. The moment you embrace total ownership, the moment you look at every situation and ask, "What's my part in this? And what can I control going forward?" you reclaim your power. Ownership doesn't mean you caused every problem you face. It means you're taking responsibility for the solution, regardless of who caused the problem. It means you stop waiting for someone else to fix things, stop making excuses, stop explaining why your circumstances make success impossible. Instead, you look at the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and you take full responsibility for closing that gap. You stop saying, "I can't because," and start saying, "I will find a way even though." This shift from victim to owner, from passenger to driver, from someone waiting for their life to change to someone actively changing their life. This is the transformation that precedes every significant achievement. People who take ownership don't have easier paths. They just refuse to be stopped by difficult paths. They don't have fewer obstacles. They just refuse to let obstacles be the end of the story. They understand that while you can't always control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. And that response determines everything. The relationship between discipline and freedom is paradoxical but profound. Most people view discipline as restrictive, as something that limits their freedom to do what they want when they want. They see structure and routine as boring, as chains that bind them to a predetermined path that leaves no room for spontaneity or pleasure. This is precisely backward. Discipline is actually the pathway to freedom. When you lack discipline, you're a slave to your impulses, your moods, your circumstances, your base desires. You wake up whenever your body decides to wake up. You eat whatever you feel like eating. You work when you feel motivated and stop when you don't. This might sound like freedom, but it's actually bondage. Bondage to your lowest impulses. Bondage to momentary gratification. Bondage to the version of yourself that chooses short-term comfort over long-term fulfillment. You're not free. You're controlled by whatever feels good in the moment, which means you're predictably steering yourself toward mediocrity. Discipline, by contrast, is choosing to do what you said you'd do regardless of how you feel in the moment. It's honoring commitments to yourself. It's creating structure that serves your goals. And this discipline, practiced consistently, creates extraordinary freedom. The person who disciplines themselves to exercise regularly has the freedom of health and energy. The person who disciplines themselves financially has the freedom of security and options. The person who disciplines themselves in their work has the freedom of career success and professional respect. Discipline in the present creates freedom in the future. Lack of discipline in the present guarantees bondage in the future, bondage to poor health, financial stress, unfulfilling work, and the constant awareness that you're not living up to your potential. The disciplined person makes hard choices early that make life easier later. The undisciplined person makes easy choices early that make life harder later. One path leads to freedom, the other leads to regret. Understanding that you are your own primary obstacle is perhaps the most liberating and most confronting realization you can have. Most people spend their lives looking for external enemies, the system that's rigged against them, the people who didn't believe in them, the circumstances that held them back. And while external challenges certainly exist, they're rarely the primary barrier to success. The primary barrier is staring at you in the mirror every morning. It's the voice in your head that says you can't. It's the habit of procrastination you've cultivated. It's the comfort with mediocrity you've developed. It's the excuses you've perfected. It's the victim story you keep telling yourself about why your life is the way it is. Until you're willing to confront this internal enemy, until you're ready to have an honest conversation with yourself about how you're sabotaging your own success, you'll remain stuck. You'll keep starting and stopping. You'll keep setting goals and abandoning them. You'll keep dreaming about a different life while unconsciously making the same choices that created your current life. The shift happens when you get angry at yourself, not in a destructive, self-loathing way, but in a productive, galvanizing way that says, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to keep letting myself off the hook. I'm not going to keep accepting excuses from myself that I wouldn't accept from anyone else. I'm not going to keep betraying the person I said I wanted to become. This confrontation with self, this decision to hold yourself to a higher standard, this refusal to let yourself slide, this is the beginning of transformation. Because once you realize that you're the problem, you simultaneously realize that you're also the solution. You can't control the world, but you can control you. And that's enough. That's actually more than enough. The person who masters themselves masters their destiny. The concept of taking immediate action, of doing it now rather than waiting for someday, addresses one of the most common and most deadly dream killers. Procrastination disguised as preparation. People tell themselves they're getting ready, that they're not quite prepared yet, that they need to learn a little more or plan a little better before they start. In reality, they're afraid. They're afraid of failure, of judgment, of discovering that they're not as capable as they hoped, of the discomfort that comes with attempting something difficult. So they hide in perpetual preparation, in endless research, in chronic planning that never transitions to execution. They become experts at getting ready to get ready, masters of the pre-game ritual who never actually enter the game. Here's what research on human behavior consistently shows. Action precedes motivation far more often than motivation precedes action. You don't need to feel ready to start. You need to start in order to feel ready. The act of beginning, even imperfectly, even with fear, even without full knowledge of the path ahead, creates momentum. It generates feedback. It produces learning. It builds confidence. Every successful person started before they were ready. Every masterpiece was created by someone who took the first step despite not seeing the whole staircase. The difference between people who achieve their goals and people who merely think about them is the willingness to act before conditions are perfect, before fear subsides, before they have all the answers. They understand that clarity comes from engagement, not contemplation. They understand that the path reveals itself to those who start walking, not to those who stand at the trailhead studying maps. So the question isn't whether you feel ready. The question is whether you're willing to start anyway, to learn as you go, to course correct along the way, to embrace the inevitable mistakes as tuition paid toward mastery. The time will never be just right. The conditions will never be perfect. You will never feel completely prepared, which means the only rational response is to act now, because waiting for someday is indistinguishable from never. Your relationship with discomfort ultimately determines your ceiling. Comfort is seductive. It feels like rest, like arrival, like you've earned the right to coast for a while. But comfort is also dangerous because growth only happens in discomfort. Every meaningful transformation requires you to do things that feel unnatural, to push beyond current limits, to exist in that zone where you're not sure you can succeed. The person who cannot tolerate discomfort cannot improve. They stay within the boundaries of what feels manageable, what feels safe, what feels like they can succeed without too much struggle. This guarantees stagnation. The person who learns to embrace discomfort, by contrast, has removed the primary limiter on their growth. They can keep pushing into new territories. They can keep developing new capabilities. They can keep expanding their capacity. Not because it feels good, it rarely does in the moment, but because they've made peace with the fact that the life they want lives on the other side of the discomfort they're currently avoiding. Every worthwhile goal requires you to become someone you're not currently being. That transformation is inherently uncomfortable. The question is whether you're willing to endure that discomfort for days, weeks, months, or years until it becomes your new normal. Most people quit during this transition period. They try something new, it feels awkward. And difficult, and they retreat back to what feels comfortable. Then they wonder why their life never changes. The high performers understand something crucial. Discomfort is temporary, but the regret of not trying is permanent. They've learned to reframe discomfort as a signal that they're growing, as evidence that they're pushing boundaries, as proof that they're on the path to becoming who they want to be. They've stopped asking, how can I avoid discomfort? And started asking, how much discomfort can I productively embrace? Because they know that they're capacity for discomfort directly, correlates with their capacity for achievement. The bigger the dream, the more discomfort you'll need to endure to reach it. It's not a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's the price of admission to the life you say you want. So the question becomes, are you willing to pay it? Or will you settle for the life you can build while staying comfortable? That choice, made daily through thousands of small decisions, determines everything. Your future is being built right now in this moment by whether you choose comfort or growth. Choose wisely because time won't give you these moments back.